The road stretched out like a black ribbon under the starless sky. Jack Riggs, a seasoned trucker with 20 years under his belt, adjusted his cap and tightened his grip on the wheel of his 18-wheeler. The CB radio crackled with static, and a familiar voice came through. "Big rig, Jack? You out there?" It was Lou, another long hauler. Jack reached for the mic. "Loud and clear, Lou. What's up?" "Just a heads up, buddy. They say Route 47's cursed tonight. Some truckers have been hearing weird things." Jack chuckled. "Weird things? Like what? Banshees?" Lou hesitated. "Not banshees, Jack. Voices, whispers. And there's been talk of missing rigs." "Missing rigs?" Jack repeated, smirking. "Come on, Lou. You're not buying into campfire tales, are you?" "Just be careful, Jack. You're running that stretch solo after all." The static buzzed again, and Lou's voice was gone. Jack set the mic down and focused on the road ahead. Route 47 wasn't his favorite highway. It was desolate and poorly lit, flanked by dense woods on either side. Tonight, though, the air felt heavier, as if the atmosphere itself was warning him to turn back. But Jack wasn't one to spook easily. The first hour passed uneventfully, with nothing but the hum of the engine and the rhythmic whine of tires on asphalt. Then, as he crested a hill, the radio sprang to life again. "Help me." Jack's brows furrowed. He grabbed the mic. "Who's this?" "Lou, is that you?" Silence. He shrugged it off, figuring it was just CB interference. But a few minutes later, it came again. "Help me, please." The voice was faint, almost childlike, and it sent a shiver down Jack's spine. "All right, who's messing with me?" He growled into the mic. "This ain't funny." No response. Jack glanced at his side mirrors, his unease growing. The road behind him was empty, just as it had been for miles. The woods loomed darker now, their twisted branches reaching out like skeletal fingers. Suddenly, the truck's headlights flickered, casting fleeting shadows that danced like phantoms on the tree trunks. Jack's heart skipped a beat. He tapped the dashboard. "Come on, don't do this now." The headlights stabilized, but the unease lingered. Then he saw it, a figure standing in the middle of the road. Jack slammed on the brakes, the tires screeching as the massive vehicle skidded to a stop. His heart pounded as he squinted through the windshield. The figure was still there, illuminated by the truck's high beams. It was a woman, dressed in tattered clothes, her long dark hair hanging over her face. She didn't move. Jack grabbed his flashlight and stepped out of the cab, his boots crunching on the gravel shoulder. "Ma'am, you okay?" The woman didn't respond. "Look, you shouldn't be out here. It's dangerous." He took a cautious step closer, and that's when he noticed it. Her feet weren't touching the ground. Jack froze, his breath caught in his throat as the woman's head tilted unnaturally to the side, revealing empty eye sockets. "Help me," she whispered, her voice echoing in the still night air. Jack bolted back to his truck, his flashlight falling to the ground. He leapt into the cab, slamming the door shut and locking it. His hands trembled as he threw the truck into gear and floored the accelerator. The woman didn't move, but her reflection lingered in his rearview mirror longer than it should have, even after the truck roared past her. Jack's chest heaved as he gripped the wheel, his eyes darting to the mirrors. The road behind him was empty again, but his sense of dread was suffocating. He reached for the CB mic with shaking hands. "Lou? Anyone? Come in." Static, then faintly, "You can't escape." Jack's knuckles turned white on the wheel. "Who the hell is this?" he barked. The radio went dead again, and that's when Jack noticed the smell. It was faint at first, a sickly, sweet odor that grew stronger by the second. It smelled like decay. He gagged, rolling down the window, but the stench only intensified. He glanced at the passenger seat and nearly screamed. A figure was sitting there, its skin pale and rotting, its empty eyes fixed on him. Jack swerved violently, the truck fishtailing before he managed to regain control. When he dared to look again, the seat was empty. As the truck entered the fog, the world outside disappeared, leaving him in an eerie gray void. The CB radio crackled again. "Turn back," a voice whispered. Jack ignored it, his pulse hammering in his ears. The fog began to thin, and Jack's relief was short-lived. The road ahead was different, worn and cracked, with weeds sprouting through the asphalt. It looked like it hadn't been used in decades. His GPS blinked, the screen flashing. No signal. "What the hell?" Jack muttered. A sign appeared on the side of the road, its paint faded and chipped. He squinted to read it. "Welcome to Drifter's Hollow." Jack had never heard of the place, and it wasn't on his route. Panic gnawed at him as he realized he couldn't remember how long he'd been driving. The CB crackled one last time. "You're one of us now." The engine sputtered and died, leaving Jack in suffocating silence. The headlights flickered and went out, plunging him into darkness. Jack fumbled for his flashlight, his hands shaking uncontrollably. When he turned it on, he wished he hadn't. Figures surrounded the truck, dozens of them, their hollow eyes glowing faintly in the dark. They pressed their decayed faces against the windows, their mouths moving in unison as they whispered a single word: "Stay." A week later, Lou sat in a truck stop diner, nursing a cup of coffee. He hadn't heard from Jack since that night. "Big rig, Jack? You out there?" he called into his CB, but only static answered. Outside, on a forgotten stretch of Route 47, Jack's truck sat abandoned, its cab empty, its headlights flickering in the endless fog. And if you listen closely, you can still hear the whispers.